There has been a very hot debate in the past year over transgender rights and some backlash in the area of women's sports. Swimmer Lia Thomas made headlines this month when she became the first openly transgender person to win a Division I national title. Now, some women criticize her participation, saying that she had an unfair advantage growing up as a biological male. The issue is playing out in state legislatures. 11 states now have laws restricting transgender girls from playing female sports. And this week, the Republican governors of Utah and Indiana vetoed similar new restrictions. Utah legislators are expected to override that veto.
A new three-part series highlights what it's like to be transgender in America right now. It's called Trans Youth Town Hall. Executive producer and host Raquel Willis interviews people of all ages about their experiences. In this clip, the panelists describe what trans joy means to them.
My trans joy is my art.
When people know us as who we are and not what we are.
Trans joy for me is all about the love and care that flows between friends, family, community, and me.
Definitely doing things I love with the people I love, and everything is just happy.
Flowers coming out of my heart.
The series will air on Logo, a division of Paramount. Raquel Willis joins us right now. How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. Now, the Town Hall creates this safe space for conversations about the transgender community. How does it feel to be part of something like this?
It feels beautiful. I mean, I think one of the most amazing parts of the series is that we get to kind of cut through all of the fodder, all of the rhetoric that's out there, and talk directly to trans youth. We're humanizing, we're letting people empathize with their stories.
Yeah, I think, you know, this may sound silly, but I think many people need a Trans 101 class, if you will, Raquel.
Absolutely.
Could you just briefly explain exactly what it means and tell us a little bit about your own personal story?
Absolutely. I mean, being trans is really not identifying with the gender I was assigned at birth. So, for instance, I was assigned male at birth. I am a woman, and it's been a journey for me. I think we all have struggles around gender because there are so many expectations that we're all kind of forced to meet. And for many of us, those boxes that were put in don't fit for us.
When did you realize for yourself, you said you were born a male, when did you realize that this isn't really who I am?
Well,
How did you struggle with that?
Yeah, I was assigned male at birth, and I really had a lot of struggles growing up because I never quite fit in with all of the standards that were put out there for boys, essentially. And so my mom, you know, is one of my biggest supporters. And when I told her I was trans and I was figuring out my gender identity, once I was in college, she was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense because I've seen your journey along the years.
Now, we hear you mention the word struggle quite a bit. And some of those struggles we hear about in the transgender community, it's violence and tragedy. But you decided in this town hall to bring up the words trans joy because you wanted to show some positivity within the community. Explain what trans joy is.
Yeah, I mean, trans joy is really kind of the backbone of our community. A lot of people don't know trans people have been around for centuries. This is not a new phenomenon.
Right. Yes.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so now we have more language than ever before, and we know more about our history. Some of these legendary figures like Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and so many more.
More education.
Absolutely. So it's about education. It's about us communing together and understanding that there's something beautiful about knowing your truth and being able to fully stand in it.
You know, one of the things that I thought was so great is the panel you have is Knockout. And you all cover a lot of different topics, including sports and including health. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that people will hear in the news right now, obviously, all the talk about the anti-trans legislation, but what does it really mean to be a young trans person right now? And what are the things that trans people need to access? I mean, these young people are just like every other young person. They need to be able to have access to healthcare, to education, and to their passions, whether it's sports, the arts, and beyond.
Gayle mentioned earlier Lia Thomas, the swimmer who just won a Division I title, I believe. And there are people on both sides saying support her. She can play any sport that she wants. And then there's other people saying, well, my daughter was a young lady since birth, and she fought her whole life to compete. And now she's competing with somebody who might have an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we have to understand that what makes any athlete elite is different across the board. So there are a lot of these ideas around looking at certain factors of trans people's bodies, trans people's hormone levels, all
What's
these
an
different
advantage,
things.
what's not.
But we have to be looking at people holistically. And I think one of the more important things for us to think about is, what about access? When I think about young Black trans athletes, have they had access to all of the training that maybe their white counterparts have been able to? So a lot of times we're also thinking about class as well.
Right. What do you want people to take away real quick from the town hall?
Yeah, well, I want people to understand that trans people are just like every other person. You know, we're all in our lives trying to figure out the best path forward, and we all
best life.
deserve to live our best life.
Amen.
We are all trying to figure it out. That is so
We
true.
appreciate you. Appreciate you bringing that joy to the show this morning.
Yes.
Raquel Willis, thank you so much. You can watch her Town Hall series on Logo. We'll be right back.